Each year in the United States, thousands of major crimes go unsolved. When the case has gone cold and police have nowhere to turn, they seek assistance from the public. This is a program dedicated to solving these cases. This is Crime Stoppers Case Files.
Every year, crimes go unsolved right here in Southern California, and that means loved ones are left waiting. I'm Joy Benedict. As a news reporter, I've covered countless crimes and homicides, and I know that sometimes the victims of those crimes are forgotten almost as quickly as those headlines fade. So tonight, on Crime Stoppers Case Files, we take another look at the crimes still lingering unsolved in our community. Let's get right to work. On June 16, 2010, Lanell Barsock was murdered in the living room of her very own Palmdale home. She was just 29 years old. Here's her story.
My daughter, Lanell Barsock. She's the third of 5 siblings. For 6 years, she was the baby before her other 2 siblings came along.
She was really the rock of the family. Really the mediator for everyone. When it came down to problems, you could come to her and talk to her very easily. She was able to just console everyone, and it was just a joy having her around all the time.
She was quiet, but busy. She was always on the honor roll from elementary to high school. She was just always interested in school. She went to Cal State, Long Beach, for about 1.5 years. She went to 2 hospitals, and she attended a nursing program.
She'll come over from Palmdale, she'll cook for us. She'll tell us the latest adventures, whatever's going on at the hospital, the patients she was dealing with. She was very friendly. Everyone she met, she was just able to just overwhelm them with kindness.
Lanell Barsock was an LVN. She had a steady job and worked a lot of overtime. Talking to her coworkers, she was held in high esteem. Everybody thought she was a really nice person and a hard worker. She and her boyfriend, Lewis, had purchased a home out in the Palmdale area approximately 1.5 years prior to her death. It was a very nice home, 3,800 square feet, 2-story. I think it was 6 bedrooms, 3 baths. She was rising in terms of her career, and we believed her relationship with Lewis.
June 16, 2010, my partner and I were tasked with responding to the city of Palmdale regarding a murder. Hours earlier, at approximately 7:30, Lorraine Austin had walked into the Palmdale Sheriff's Station, contacted deputies there, and told them that she'd been at her friend's house, her friend being Lanell Barsock, and she had been weaving Lanell's hair. Lanell and her boyfriend became embroiled in an argument regarding another man that Lanell was involved with. Lorraine Austin told deputies she left to go for a walk to let them sort out their personal differences. Lorraine was gone for several hours. When she returned, at first she couldn't find Lanell.
She continued looking for her friend and even called out her name but got no response. So then she walked into the garage thinking she might have been in the garage doing something. Lorraine said when she stepped into the garage, it was somewhat dim, it was somewhat dark, and she slipped on something and actually fell. And when she fell, she looked around and realized that she had fallen or slipped on bloody plastic sheeting that was on the floor or on the ground. She realized that there was blood on the sheeting, and she had gotten blood on her hands as well as her clothing, her pants, and the bottom of her feet. She said she stood up, looked around, and saw some feet of a person laying next to our victim's car. Our victim's car was in the garage, had been backed up, and the trunk lid was open, and our victim was laying next to the car. Lorraine said she saw the feet protruding next to the car and recognized the toenail polish, and recognized that was her friend's toenail polish. So she walked over. Her friend was wrapped in plastic sheeting, and she was bleeding.
She very quickly realized that Lanell was dead, tried to move her, then heard a noise upstairs, became frightened that the killer was still there, and decided to leave the location. As she's exiting the house, She hears a noise upstairs as she's passing the stairway that leads from the first floor to the second, looks upstairs and sees Lanell's boyfriend standing at the top of the stairs. This is the boyfriend that Lanell lives with. Lorraine flees the house, and when she gets into her car and drives away, the boyfriend chases Lorraine down the street and onto a major thoroughfare and then vanishes. Deputies listen to this story. They look in her car, they look in her purse, and they find 2 live bullets in Lorraine's case, which seems odd, but she has a plausible explanation. Deputies go to the house to find out if in fact this happened, and do find Lanell Barsock dead in the garage. And then they call Sheriff's Homicide. My partner, Joe Espino, and I arrive to handle the case.
The phone rang, the detective called. He just asked me, was Lewis there? Lewis was her boyfriend. And Lewis and Lanell stayed at my house a lot of nights instead of driving back to Palmdale. So I got up and I knocked on the door and I told Lewis, I said, someone's on the phone, would like to speak with you. So I kind of lingered back and I heard him say, it's about Lanell.
By the time we get to the scene, we have the house where he may be staying at pretty much locked down. Not quite surrounded, but it's locked down. We can see anybody entering or exiting.
And they asked which one was Lewis. Lewis identified himself. They brought me inside my home. They told me that she was deceased.
We later call Lewis out. He's detained regarding this incident.
Went to the sheriff's station. The detective and this person walked out of the hallway. And the first thing I asked, I said, how do you know Lanell? And she said, oh, we went to Crenshaw together. I said, Crenshaw? I said, I don't know you. And she hugged me and she said, you have my condolences. Her shirt was stained with blood. I told the detective, I said, I don't know her.
Welcome back to Crime Stoppers Case Files. Investigators thought they were about to solve the murder of this 29-year-old nurse. They had a motive, they had a witness, but then things got very strange.
On June 16, 2010, in the afternoon hours, Lanell Barsock was murdered in her home in Palmdale, California. The deputies responded, cleared the house, and found a female African-American deceased in the garage.
We continue to process the scene. The scene is a little bit unique in that it looks like the house has been cleaned up. There's a lot of blood in the garage, and nothing in the garage makes any sense. You've got a car that's backed into the garage with a bunch of garbage inside the trunk of the car, as well as bloody sheets of plastic. The victim has clearly been dragged through the garage, possibly through the house. We process the scene. At some point we stop to go interview the next of kin and Lorraine Austin at the station. Lorraine tells us basically the same thing she told us before. We talk to the next of kin. Next of kin doesn't know anything about Lorraine Austin. Lorraine Austin tells us she's known the victim for years, 10 years. Went to high school together. Talk to the next of kin. Next of kin says, never met her before, never heard her name mentioned. Finish with that, we go back to the scene, we do what's called a luminol test. Luminol is a chemical that they spray on a surface which will reveal to the human eye where blood may have been after it had been cleaned up or removed. It was the best luminol test I've ever seen. It was like a purple bluish Christmas tree going all the way through the laundry room, through the kitchen, and into the living room.
Through luminol, we were able to tell that the body had been dragged from the family room through the kitchen and through the laundry room and into the garage. And all that area, that entire path from the family room through the garage had been cleaned up. So you couldn't tell that there'd been a bloody path where the body had been dragged.
We then start processing the suspect's truck, Lewis. We find receipts in his truck for getting auto parts on the day of the murder. And this makes sense because this is what Lorraine Austin had told us. She had told us that he was supposed to go there to get his truck worked on, but it never happened. Well, we find receipts. Being curious, we follow up with the receipts, go to the video store or to the auto parts store. We have video of Lewis in 2 different auto parts stores at about the time this murder occurred. The auto parts store is in South Central Los Angeles. The murder happened in the northern part of LA County. You can't get from South Central LA up to the Lancaster, Palmdale area quickly at any time of day or night. And you certainly can't do it during rush hour. So very quickly, it starts looking like Lewis was nowhere near the scene of the crime. There's no way that Lewis could have done this murder. We continue our investigation. We find out through cell phone records that Lewis is nowhere near Palmdale. They're heading to South Central LA, and it cell phone pings all the way down the freeways. You can tell exactly where those cell phones are during the afternoon and evening hours of the murder. We then exonerate Lewis, and we let him out of jail. He's not the man who committed that murder. All of the evidence that we're gathering so far now is starting to point towards Lorraine Austin. There were several things at the crime scene we couldn't explain, didn't seem to make much sense. One of them was a Dear John letter on the refrigerator, and it's from our victim, Lanell, to Lewis. And it's basically telling Lewis, hey, I got another boyfriend, he makes more money than you, he and I are gonna live happily ever after. By the way, I'm taking one of the TVs, signed Lanell. We saw the note when we got there, and we assumed, not knowing any better, that the note was from the author that was signed at the bottom to the intended person on the top. Well, crime labs are a pretty interesting place. We used our forensic writing analysis team, and they determined that that note was actually written by Lorraine Austin, not by Lanell Barsock. So now we have a Dear John letter written by Lorraine telling everybody that Lanell is leaving.
Lorraine Austin initially gave us information that led us to believe that somebody else had committed this crime. Essentially, she framed somebody else. But through our investigation, we really determined that she in fact lied to us, and the person that she attempted to frame was in fact innocent.
At the police station, she came and hugged both of us with my sister's blood on her shirt, telling her that we have her condolences. Her mother even came in, hugged us, told us that we have her condolences.
And it haunts me. It haunts me that she hugged me.
On June 16, 2010, in the afternoon hours, 29-year-old Lanell Barsock was murdered in her home in Palmdale, California, while having her hair done. We subsequently found out through our investigation that she was murdered by her friend, Lorraine Austin.
Lorraine Austin told us that she'd known Lanell Barsock for 10 years, that they went to high school together. Well, we found out that to be false. They were never at the same high school together, and they had in fact only met months earlier. Lanell had told her boyfriend that she had just met Lorraine Austin a few months ago, and Lorraine Austin was assisting our victim with hair weaves. At some point, a relationship other than just hairdresser-client became very apparent. We know this from text messages that we captured where Lanell sends Lorraine a text message saying that the sexual side of their relationship had to stop. She was going to get back with her boyfriend that she lived with, Lewis. We believe that this may have had a negative impact with Lorraine. She was having a sexual relationship with a woman who had a great deal. Our victim lived in a large home, had many large TVs in the room. She had business plans for what she was going to do with the home other than live in it. It was going to be a part-time business for her. We feel as though Lorraine was probably trying to capture some of this asset. She was going to have a relationship with Lanell. She was going to benefit from the money that Lanell had. Lorraine really didn't have much. She was at the time living on either disability or unemployment, wasn't really moving forward with her life, and now she was being dumped. Based on what we see from the crime scene, it looks as though the murder happened in the family room on top of an area rug. We found that wrapped, rolled up and stuck into the back seat of the BMW, which is the car that was backed into the garage at the victim's home. We luminoled the rug to make sure we had a clear understanding of what happened with that rug, and it was pretty clear that somebody had fallen, bled on the carpeting, and then was moved, and that somebody had tried to remove some of that blood. The purse that wasn't mentioned earlier that Lorraine had was a very large purse, certainly large enough to conceal a weapon. When she got to the sheriff's department, there was nothing in that purse except for 2 unexpended bullets, 2 live bullets. What we theorize happened is that Lanell sits down in the chair so that Lorraine can continue the hair weave. The suspect pulled out her weapon, shot the victim once in the back of the head, unbeknownst as to what was going on.
When I went to the autopsy, the coroner indicated that the bullet had traversed from the back of her head out through her left nostril and had gone at pretty much a 45-degree angle, which would explain someone seated, maybe getting her hair done, and someone coming behind her and shooting her once in the back of the head.
The victim most likely would have either slumped in the chair or fallen forward on top of the area rug. At this point now, the suspect has some options. If she's strictly there for the money, now she has the option of cleaning the place out, ransacking it, and then leaving. Or if she's planning on something different, she now has to remove the body and pin this crime on somebody else. Somebody else has to take the fall for this if it doesn't go well. So at this point, what we believe happens is that Lorraine drags Lanell from the family room through the kitchen, into the hallway, and into the garage. It's our estimate that, or our guess, that the plan was to clean up the crime scene, put the victim into the car, take the victim out into the desert, and dump the victim, and then throw the bloody sheets, the bloody plastic, and all of the trash that was in the trunk of the car on top of the victim. The Lancaster-Palmdale area is high desert. There's a lot of land there that's undeveloped. There are a lot of ravines that are not traveled at all. So it would, in fact, be a good place to leave or to dump a body. Something went wrong. The body couldn't be moved, or she ran out of time. Those are the two options. I can't get the body out of here. I can't get it stuffed into the car. I'm not strong enough to move it. I don't have the upper body strength required to move dead weight. Now I have to come up with plan B. Plan B is to pin this on Lewis, pin this on somebody else, and make sure the police don't look at me, that I had nothing to do with it. And that's what she attempted to do.
Welcome back to Crime Stoppers Case Files, and we now return to the story of Lanell Barsock.
Lanell Barsock sends Lorraine Austin a text message stopping the sexual side of their relationship. Approximately a week later, Lanell has been murdered in her home. Once we felt as though we had enough evidence to arrest Lorraine, there was a warrant placed in the system. We went to Lorraine's house, but she wasn't there. There didn't seem to be any trail, nor did anybody seem to know where Lorraine had gone. She just seemed to have vanished.
And this person, she's dangerous. And to come up to me and tell me that I have her condolences, knowing what she's done. She's heartless.
She is Satan incarnate. She lied to detectives, she lied to us. She does it so well. She keeps a demeanor that I have never seen before. She could tell a straight lie to your face and not even flinch.
Lorraine is about 5'2". She's 170 pounds. On January 25th, 2012, Lorraine Austin was arrested in the Central American country of Belize. The FBI received a tip from the television program America's Most Wanted, and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office with the FBI followed up. She is currently in the Los Angeles County Jail. Remember, we are here every week with more crimes and more families needing answers. These are your neighbors. This is your community, and you can make a difference.